You're a tour guide, not a basketball.
Yeah, we're pulling heavy loads on skids and sleds, pulling around 5,000 downtown Charleston. So, not a bad life for a truck. Here's the city market. That was since 1807. Talk more about the city market later on. The place is the same, uninterrupted operation, with the exception of the years of the Civil War, the hurricanes here and there, a big earthquake in 1886, pandemic in 2020, remember that? Yeah, so now we're on Church Street, right? Does anybody want to guess when in 1680 is when the settlement of Charlestown moved here to the peninsula? First thing those settlers discovered, they got fixed, estimated to be a 7.4 on the Richter scale. This is the service Alice stones. They're used to weigh down empty wooden ships from England to load up on that valuable cargo like rice and indigo. Those ships will be mostly empty. So anyways, we're in a neighborhood called, this house sold 2 years ago, $7.5 million. Well, that's the prices being thrown around out here. Right? So here's Broad Street. Always been the main east-west street of Charleston since the earliest days of the settlement. The walled city of Charleston, right? There was a drawbridge. That's how you entered into the walled city, by land. The drawbridge was just a block and a half down, just west of us. Remember where that white steeple church is, St. Michael's Church? That's where the drawbridge is. So I've always done that. St. Michael's Church. St. Michael's is the oldest church building standing in Charleston, South Carolina. 1761 when they finished dances and dinners. Buildings behind us at the end of the street where President George Washington danced all night with the ladies of Charleston. As soon as they do that, then we're going to plan on building a new church here at the old St. Philip's location. St. Michael's Graveyard. Here goes R.I.P. Buried in that graveyard. We have 4 signers of the United States Constitution who live in Charleston. This is the intersection of Union and Broad Street. The city center of Charleston, where the drawbridge was, City Hall on the right, 1800. State Courthouse, 1752. And that was the state capitol until 1786. The state capital moves to Columbia, South Carolina. And then, 1788, big fire. Remodeled 1792 when the architects are working on the remodel job. James Hoban also gets the job designing the White House in Washington, D.C. Those are the front doors for Washington. Sweetgrass baskets. A legacy of the Gullah people, the Gullah Geechee culture, which culture that developed in those history. Those are the descendants of the very same enslaved Africans that worked in the rice field. And when you get that rice ready for market, they made a basket called a fanning basket. Big, wide, round, flat basket. French, you know, French Protestant. It was okay. It was okay with that. There's Trad Street that we're crossing right now. This is a very desirable street to live on in colonial Charleston, unobstructed from the Ashley River to the Cooper River, formed a bit of a wind tunnel, and it was all about the breezes in the summertime in Charleston. There's no such thing as air conditioning, right? It's humid, warm Charleston summer days. How about a house on the south end of the peninsula with a big piazza on it, porch, right? Where I can sit in the shade and do nothing and catch the breeze. Walled city. We're at the top left corner. The horizontal line on the diagram at the top is Meeting Street. That's what we're on right now. We're leaving the old walled city, what was the old walled city. This house on the right, 1808, is the Daniel Russell house. You see Mr. Russell's initials? Daniel Russell in our second floor. No peeking on the piazza. The whole family can be sitting there and wonder, right? Built in the 1750s. This house, though, would be the headquarters of General P.G.T. Beauregard, commander of the Confederate forces in Charleston during the American Civil War. 1720, the home of Royal Lieutenant Governor William Bull, who, together with James Oglethorpe, the founder of the colony of Georgia, designed the city of Savannah, Georgia, for the purpose of defending Charleston from attack by the Spanish, who were down in St. Augustine, Florida, in a walled city of their own. The Spanish tried to invade Charleston on at least 3 occasions that I can remember failed. So that was the purpose of Savannah, was really just to get in the way of the Spanish going to St. Augustine, right? That's why they have the public squares in Savannah. Those were intended to be places where the military could camp out if needed. Right. Built by Thomas Hayward Jr., a Charleston resident who also signed the Declaration of Independence. 1797, I believe, is when he built that single house. Built a 72 rooms wide facing the street. Look how they faked the look of stone there with that hand-carved cypress wood, right? And then on the left-hand side, home of George Williams Sr., 24,000 square feet.
Look at the
The biggest privately owned
It's
home
beautiful.
in South Carolina. Built in 1878. Mr. Williams, well, he's a generous man. He gave that house with the hand-carved cypress plots, gave that to his son. And only 5 of them were built before the American Revolution. It's an amazing collection of original American architecture that survived. It's remarkable. Look at that. The big iron lanterns, right? And a huge piazza facing the southern end of the peninsula. It's all about, this guy made his money. Martha Williams, George Williams Sr.'s daughter, on her wedding day in 1888, finds a check for $100,000 on her pillow. She takes that money and buys and builds this clean Victorian. Hey, this is a park we call the Battery, also known as White Point Garden. This was marshland originally. They fill it in the early 19th century, build this park in the 1840s and plant these southern live oak trees. There's another view of that. Martha Williams' house is now a bed and breakfast called Two in the World to Stay Before You Die. What's that? It's supposed to be just extraordinarily beautiful inside. Right on the Cooper River Mead. So this park is everything you want. Breeze and shade in the summer. On the left-hand side, open in 1780. Home of Colonel William Washington. A cousin, 20 years his junior. And Colonel Washington was also a hero in the Revolutionary War, at least 2 and 7. The hotel until 1950. Its famous guests included Alexander Graham Bell, I think he called room service. Teddy and Franklin D. Roosevelt stayed there. Also, the cast of Gone with the Wind stayed there in 1939. Hey guys, the back row. If you passed by here in November 1718, you would have seen 29 pirates hanging by their necks, left to hang for a week. Yeah, and in fact, between November and December 1718, they hanged 55 pirates and left them hang for a week. As a signal, the pirates had been sailing into Charleston Harbor, stealing ships loaded down with valuable cargo. We're done with you pirates. 0 tolerance. And that was it. That was the end of the pirate problem. Charleston Harbor, what I believe to be the single most important site in all of American history. Behind that guy leaning on the railing, he doesn't know it, but that's Fort Sumter. That is where the American Civil War began, on April 12, 1861. Straight out there in the harbor where the water meets the sky, with a flagpole sticking straight up, and that crane is leaning slightly to the left. April 12, 1861, General Beauregard is giving the orders for a Fort Sumter. 34-hour bombardment will follow. Those first explosions lead those federal troops that are still here in Charleston will garrison themselves. Cannon will explode accidentally, killing a federal private as mule, pounding Charleston for 587 days. For a year and a half, bombs will land down on Charleston, South Carolina, day and night, the longest siege of any city in wartime history. And General Beauregard, well, he had been watching Fort Sumter. I don't know, several live oak trees. They go big live oak trees. If they had built those walls out of live oak trees, I think this would have been a different story. Because hardwoods will break and splinter when hit by cannonballs. But not palmettos. Because palmettos are not actually hardwoods. They're technically members of the grass family. So when they're hit by cannonballs, they're spongy, absorbent, and flexible. So many of those cannonballs that are fired by the 9 warships with 270 cannons that the British are trying to bring into Charleston Harbor to invade Charleston. They're frustrated. Those cannonballs are bouncing right off the walls of Fort Sullivan. They can't believe their eyes. So they're going to come in closer and closer to get a better shot. When they do so, the tide goes out. And 3 of those British warships get stuck in the mud at low tide. We call that bluff mud here. It's like quicksand. There's no escape. British warships can't escape. The Americans return fire, destroy at least one of those British warships, damage several others, causing them to return to the New York Harbor from whence they came. That will be the first decisive American victory of the Revolution. June 28th, 1776, right there, Sullivan's Island, Charleston Harbor. So you've got the beginning of the American Revolution, and you've got the beginning of the American Civil War, right there. In some ways, the end of the Civil War in Charleston. Those are seminal events in American history. They took place right there, Charleston Harbor. So that's why that's my nominee for the single most important site of all of it. You got those 2 events there. There's other big things that happen there. At the beginning of submarine warfare, there's that corner, which on that diagram would be the lower left side. Okay. Oh, yeah, lower left corner. So that's where we are right now. So we're going back into the walled city. Period on the ground. There's a couple of small sections above ground. We pass by one of them, it's visible above the sidewalk. Another big section that's in the basement of the old exchange building, which is also a museum, so you can down there and see it. Yeah, so that's, again, defending the city against the French and the Spanish and the pirates coming out of the Caribbean. That's why we got a wall, particularly on the waterfront, right? And here we'll see another use of those bastion markers. Pronounce that name, Vandross Wharf, extending out into the harbor, right? You see that's landfill on either side of those ballasts. Oh, there's that little section of brick wall we'll take a look at it. That's visible above the sidewalk. So that would have been a section that was outlined in the ballast stones in this parking lot. So you know where this brick fortification was going. It was what was called a redan. There would have been like 3-4 cannons on here facing out. Yeah. On your left-hand side, probably the most photographs you see in the docks of the city, which have been right across the street. Carriage door openings are a giveaway, right? Originally, a stretch of wooden buildings burned down in a big fire of 1740. Right away, they'll rebuild, right? They've got the docks across the street, they gotta get back to work. So this green building on the left-hand side, and then the light blue one to the right, and the pink one, those are 3 buildings surviving from 1740, and they rebuilt right away. A second fire sweeps through the neighborhood in 1778, burning down the neighbors of these 3 guys. So these buildings you see flanking them, 1780s, okay? That's what you're looking at, right? And again, commercial buildings, services, docks of the city will all fall into disrepair after the Civil War, like every other building in Charleston. And people are rather desperate, thinking of ideas to bring this town back to life, because it's had a prolonged period of economic decline since the Americans finished the fire, because they remodeled it right after that 1778 fire. And so this door would lead to a cooper shop. This guy made barrels. So what are we putting in barrels? Rice and indigo and anything else going out of that harbor. Salted meat maybe. And so, and then he lived upstairs. So his entry to his home, maybe that's him there, right? Sitting on the brick wall. That was the entry to his house. So he went upstairs. There was a hallway. It's going to be governed by law now. There's a very strict zoning law, preservation law. Like this wall.
See, they have to leave that wall and then incorporate it into that new house they're building. Like Mike is telling us he's telling me.
I believe this was a commercial building as well.
Why is there a line that
So-
you can still?
Charleston was founded because the Federal Navy was using church steeples to calibrate their cannons, right? Because they could see them. So, ouch. A lot of the church steeples were damaged. Right? It's amazing these things are even standing. Right? So much has happened. Earthquakes, wars, hurricanes. Can't get rid of them. They advertise this from 1890. So because it's so old, it's been restored at this point. Oh, the Batman of Charleston. There's a South Carolina flag with a palmetto right in the sun, right? Look at that. Starry Row, 28, 1776. There's our battle stones again. When you look over your right-hand shoulder, as you pass this street, Chalmers Street again, you see a pink house. We call that the pink house. It was a tea house. It was a tea house. When sailors came into port, they've been at sea a long time. And oftentimes they were very lonely. And so they needed company. So that's where they went. So I'll leave it at that. They've been here since 1680. And they've had a church here at this corner lot since 1687. You know, a church building at this location. This third building built in 1845. The French Huguenots who have been here since 1680, they're still here. You can't get rid of them. They still worship in that space every Sunday. It's really cool, right? There are people with French last names worshiping in that space on Sundays. They have the same last names, and it's very different here. On the left-hand side, there's a little cemetery. You see the graveyard in the center? Graveyard's on a churchyard, connected to the church. Secretary of State, Secretary of War, controversial figure in the 19th century, the issues of slavery, the states' rights. You will clearly see the handprints and fingerprints of enslaved human beings pressed into those books, including handprints of children as young as 6 years old. There are some at 1807 Copperhead landfill. So because this is landfill, there are parts of Market Street that are actually below sea level. So it makes it prone to flooding, particularly at high tide. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to share Charleston with you today. It was my absolute pleasure. Please give my buddy, because Rex normally is stop and be able to exit from the right side. Please watch your step. Take your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had a good time, didn't we?
Sure.